Welcome to another episode of Men Forward. Here with my bro, Rafe and Neil and myself. And today we are going to be speaking about mental health and how to stay on top of with your mindset, with all of the things that's going around.
If you're not in a state of mental clarity, in a good mental health wise, etc., like nothing else really functions in your life, right? Because it basically takes up everything. We are mostly what we think, what is happening in our mind. So it takes up your energy, your concentration, thoughts, everything, right?
So I lifted a barbell and then this guy comes into me, and then he was like, hey, excuse me, I was using this. And then I was keeping it. I was like, okay, if you're using it, it's fine. And he was like, yeah, I just went there. And I got pissed off because of his attitude. I was like, well, what do you fucking mean? Like, it's a fucking public gym. And I told him because I was so fucking pissed. I usually don't voice these things out. I was like, I don't see your name here. And then he looks at me and I went like, go enjoy it. And then I left the bar there, right? Something that he said after which I left, he was like, maybe it was your perception. He said that, and then I went back and I continued to work. And I was like, what if it was my fucking perception? What if he was not really rude to me? I just felt it because I was in that mental state.
I started to be way more aware on what am I feeling and how do I actually face that feeling as fast as possible so it doesn't stuck with me on that side. Welcome to another episode of Men Forward. Here with my bro, Rafe and Neil and myself, where we talk about topics that should be pushing men forward and supporting them in all aspects of their life. And today we are going to be speaking about mental health and how to stay on top of with your mindset, with all of the things that's going around, the influence of war, the influence of family, the influence of social media, and so on. It's fun enough. Just before starting, me and Neil were actually already speaking about that one. No coincidence, so most likely we're just going to be continuing on that one. So I will start with Neil to give us his input on the mental health part of it.
Yeah. So kind of continuing on where we were just now, right? But we need to have a kickoff point. So ultimately, like if you're not in a state of mental clarity, in a good mental state, mental health wise, etc., like nothing else really functions in your life, right? Because it basically takes up everything. We are mostly what we think, what is happening in our mind. So it takes up your energy, your concentration, thoughts, everything, right? So essentially now we live in a state where there's so much stimulus, right? So follow me here. Now, being stressed, having negative experience, all of these things are responses, right? And every response comes from a stimulus. So I was having this conversation with my partner actually, and we were going into this. And today we have so much input, whether it's from screens, whether it's from email, we listen to podcasts, having a conversation, seeing the news, and everything has, in my opinion, like energy that we absorb because we're taking the time to let this enter our space, right? And it can be, visual, audio, whatever, anyway through the five senses. So that energetic frequency is how I see it. Has an effect on us, and it can either energize us or take away our energy or put us in a negative energetic state. So it's all stimulus, and that mental state is the response, right? And if you look deeper into it, for each of us, we will have different responses based on what the stimulus is. An example, we were having the chat about Instagram, for example. Everyone there shows their best life, traveling, driving Lamborghini, super successful, the whole shebang. Now, what we see is the most polished, presentable version of that person. We never see this person taking a shit. We never see this person crying. We don't see this person struggle. If they, owe money to the bank, like nothing. We don't know. All we see is this polished version, right? So that already is altered, and and that stimulus coming to us now, telling us or programming us that, oh, this is what you should aspire to be or do. This is the standard here. You're not good enough, etc. Like, non-consciously, not even subconsciously, because non-conscious is much more, right? um, all of this has an effect on us because we're just absorbing and allowing this energy to alter with us. And that's just one example, like social media, TikTok, Instagram, all this kind of stuff. Now think about every conversation you have, um, whether it's with your colleagues, your boss, your partner, your family, people on the street. You may have a negative interaction, guy cuts you off in traffic. So all of that is input in some way or form that would alter energy, right? And thus affect our mental state. So ultimately, like I can go on and on, but I want to close on that point there, like on the way I see it. So I try to go to the root of it, and the source of it, and for me that is the stimulus. So whenever something triggers and I feel bad, or I go off my energy, desired energy, let's say, I try to eliminate that, so some things are out of control, so obviously, like life is very dynamic, or relationships and stuff can have us in different energetic states, whatever we're experiencing in life. When you have family and kids and all this kind of stuff, things come up, right? Like you're dealing with other human beings, so not everything is within control, but the things that I can control, I do try to control, because I know it's going to affect my energy. So that's kind of like how I try to manage it. I'm very objective with it, rather than emotional, because that's just how I am. So I try to look at it this way. It doesn't happen 100% of the time. I'm a human being, but this is how I tend to view it. And then, of course, like we touched on previous episodes, on just the power of gratitude. Whether you're going through whatever, like if you can still be grateful there, then that is the ultimate level. And sometimes that's hard. E- as life gets more complex, you may be going through something personally, or in your job, or stress, or a lot of responsibility, whatever it may be. But if you can find that time to be grateful in that moment, I think that's a certain level of power to shift that energy. But I'll leave it there, and then we'll jump to Rafe. I want to know your thoughts on it.
You covered everything, and I've written down notes because I feel like you have, really encapsulated, um, what it means to be stressed, and especially by the stimulus that we are actually exposed to, and every single thing, right? Like at the moment, our attention spans are going down and down and down, and it will continue to go down because there is so much stimulus. We are receiving so much energy from literally our phones, our partner, our everything, our pets, plants, phone calls, work, whatever. So I won't go there, but I will share a story because I think it happened like a month and a half or 2 months ago, and I wanted to share it with you guys because it was so interesting. So I woke up, and usually when I wake up, I get ready, go to the gym. I was in the gym, and of course, like I was at times when I'm in the gym, I work. I take meetings, or I do something. So my mind is usually occupied, and I was in that state where I was just going because I was working out. But in my head, I was just thinking about, okay, how to solve this, how to do that, etc., and just putting the pieces together. So I was doing my shoulder presses, and then I was on a bench. I from shoulder presses I went to this this other machine, and then there I started using it because I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm just going to see if I change my next workout. Can I just try this out? So I lifted a barbell, and I was just trying to just do shoulder presses with that, and then this guy comes into me, and then he was like, "Hey, excuse me, I was using this." And I was taken aback. I was like, okay, all right, man, you were using this, like, all right. And then I was keeping it. I was like, okay, if you're using it, it's fine. And he was like, yeah, I just went there. And I was like, and I got pissed off because of his attitude. I was like, motherfucker, what do you fucking mean? Like, it's a fucking public gym, like you don't. And I told him because I was so fucking pissed. I usually don't voice these things out. I was like, I don't see your name here. And he was like, what did you just say? I was like, I don't see your fucking name here. And then he looks at me, and I was like, and I went like, go enjoy it. And then I left the bar there, right? So I went back to my dumbbells, and then I was and near that machine, I had put my bag and my phone. So I went there and then I was taking my phone. He was like, "Excuse me, do we have a problem?" And I was like, "I don't think we have a problem, but you could have said it nicely to me, like it's a fucking public gym, so why the fuck are you showing me this attitude?" And then I went. All right, so and then something that he said, which after which I left, he was like, maybe it was your perception, and that he said that, and then I went back and I continued to work, and I was like, what if it was my fucking perception? What if he was not really rude to me, and I just felt it because I was in that mental state. And then as soon as I finished that set, I went to him and I apologized. I was like, you know what, man, it could be my perception. And he was like, man, I was just coming to you to apologize because it could have been my way as well, because I was just having a very weird morning. I was like, man, I was having a weird morning too. And we were like, after that we became friends, and we were like, I apologize if I
And then they kiss.
if I was something. And then we kissed, bro. It was
Oh, it's
a
very
very
funny.
romantic, happy ending. But
Bro,
that moment,
I
I
couldn't keep
realized,
this joke in for any more, dude.
Oh
I would
my
have
god.
blown up.
Oh my god. They live happily ever after.
yes,
Bro,
bro.
so we
But it
basically
was like, it was crazy. Like, I realized. So this is what my belief is, right? Like, my belief is that I never get stressed, right? But that moment, I realized that my mind was all over the place, because it could have been my perception. Like, he would have been nice. Maybe it's just his face, like maybe that's how he talks. But I took it at the wrong way, and he received it at the wrong way as well. And I'm happy that we had the courage to apologize. And I was like, if men can be like that, this is fucking incredible.
That's some grown man shit right there.
Yeah. But like, I think that was a very massive realization for me, and now I'm very mindful of my state. How am I thinking? And I think we talked about multitasking in one of the few episodes, where we were like, okay, is it good, is it productive? And I do think that I can multitask at times, but I also know that my mental state, then is so distributed. I'm not living in the moment, I'm living in the future or the past all the fucking time. But Ali, you were making a joke, please go on.
well, the joke was actually very good. I would give myself an solid 8.9 out of 10 based on that joke. So I think that's a very good one. Dude, but it seems like we are circling on the same topic, but we're not really touching the topic, but we're sharing our personal experiences because it is actually highly related to that one. So for me, one of the things that have been really influencing me like lately, and also very much related to that one, and also the topic that we started with, I'm reading the book Letting Go by Dr. Hawking, which is actually a very, very good book and incredible in how do you actually deal with emotions. Because one of the things, like, again, I think, as you said, Neil, in the beginning, we of course get triggered by those external pictures, and they are stimulating something inside us. And the question was, like, is it really the mindset or is it actually the emotion? And do I really deal with that emotion? So I know we spoke about the mindset and then the mental part when we're beginning, but I think it's also how to deal with it on an emotional level, because I started to be way more aware on what am I feeling and how do I actually face that feeling as fast as possible so it doesn't stuck with me on that side. Number two, and I think Neil, you mentioned it in the beginning, and I totally agree on that one, is really to be grateful for what you have. Because Rafi was saying, I'm living in the future, but then I was listening to Alan Watts the other day where he says, but the future is just the now in another point of time. There are nothing called a future. There are only one present, which is the now. And then it's the now, and the now, and the now, and the now, and the now. And when I'm asking myself then, okay, how can I live those moments of the now? Because that is the only thing that I'm doing. Because usually, by the way, I'm the one who talks in the gym. I'm the one who would be speaking to people. But I came to the point, I'm always putting my earplugs or my headphones on when I'm going to the gym. Usually I'm like, oh, let me listen to a podcast and working out. But I also figure out one thing. I'm like, listen, even with your muscles, when they say like focusing on your muscle, the contraction, the extraction, blah, 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 I really need to sit down and focus on that exercise and not do anything else. My full attention is only on the thing I'm doing. Also, when I'm, for example, with Gabby, I actually realized one thing is like when I was with Gabby the other day, it doesn't happen that much, but I was sitting with my phone. Do you know what he did? He fucking took my phone and was like, hey, Dad, you're sitting with me. Why are you even sitting on your phone? And I, dude, that was so well and so profound. That's like also with your partner. When you are with your partner, you can be 5 times with her, but if you present, then you truly present with her. That's more than you just being there 1 hour and you are in your own thoughts and pretending that you're listening. So I think like really it goes back to, if I would give away 2 things in here. The first one is really to, the world is becoming so complex for the human mind to handle, and we are overstimulated. How can you reduce it to the bare minimum? That's number one. For example, for me, for the longest time, I haven't seen news. And if I'm always said, if a news is very important, someone would definitely speak about it around. That's it. And this is how I get to know about everything from American election to new things in Danish politics or anything in the government taxation. If it's big enough, then I will get to know it, and otherwise I will search for it if it's relevant. And that's how I've been cutting shitload of information, because I'm like, I'm tired of just getting, because of all I'm saying, a system will get imbalanced if it gets too much input and it doesn't do any output. And it just get corrupted. So that's one thing. And number 2 is really one of those things. I'm like, we have mentioned it on the emotional level, the spiritual level, and also the mental level, just to practice gratitude. And sometimes it sounds so simple, it's so banal, but it's so foundational. Like how many times I've been saying just like, practice gratitude, because then you would know you are perfect exactly where you are. And there are no future that you need to run for and no past that you need to run from. You are here and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Because I had a chat the other day with our in-house psychologist and coach, and I was like, listen, I'm feeling such a huge urge, such a huge potential, like a fire inside me that just want to create something. But on the other side, I'm extremely grateful. And she's like, are you truly grateful? I'm like, interesting. I didn't know that. But it seems like I am grateful, but there are something inside me. And she's like, how about if you are exactly where you're supposed to be? And your mission is not to change millions, but I just saw you make 2 people smile. Maybe that is something that's of a great achievement. I'm like, I never saw it like that. It gave me a totally different picture on it. And the last thing I would love to give away, because I think it was extremely profound, I think speaking about the mental load and the mental simulation and the emotional simulation and so on, she was giving me an example that was extremely profound. She's like, if you see someone who have something that you don't have, either you are envious or it's something that you really wish in your life, then ask yourself, are you willing to give away your entire package to get what that person have? And that means your family, everything you have been building, all of your experiences for that person. And most likely the answer is no, which gets you back to the same point. I'm actually freaking grateful for whatever I have. And that really shifted so much in me in the past 2 or 3 days, because I was like really in a state of self-blaming. Is it lack of discipline? Is it lack of skill? Is it what is lacking for me to make that next step? But what if you are where you're supposed to be and the journey is just leading you exactly in the speed that you're supposed to go? Hard to comprehend, and I'm still trying to deal with that reality of how much can you control the speed and the achievement, and how much is it already predetermined and you're just flowing with it. And I don't have an answer.
Yeah, just want to ask one question and then I have one comment. You talked about how to deal with it on emotional level, right? Mindset versus emotions. But you did not really go deep in it. Like, what do you actually mean? What is the difference?
For me, again, I think definitely they are connected. Most of the time you get maybe a mental simile, which is a thought, but that thought will actually be triggering a certain emotion that is tied to it. And most of the time we try to make things logic, because, for example, if you get a certain emotion, all of a sudden you will ask yourself, why am I feeling this? What is the logical setup that is making me feel what I'm feeling. But that's not how the emotions works. Emotion work on a total different level. So what I'm at least doing and practicing at this point in time, like I'm asking myself, okay, I'm feeling something and acknowledging my emotion. And as again, the book I'm reading now is called Letting Go, and then it's like speaking about how to let it go and let it be. But I think like the new thing for me is how to acknowledge emotions so they don't even get suppressed or suppressed inside your system, because they will later on, if you have a certain emotion, then it can also influence how you see the world. If you're a fearful person, your mindset will be fearful. If you are a courageous person, your mindset will also be courageous, and how actually you take decisions in life. So that's at least how I see the connection between them.
Okay, I think that makes sense. So what you're saying is that when it comes to dealing with a stressful situation, you check in with yourself and what emotion you're feeling and why you're feeling so that you can understand yourself a little bit better.
Yeah, but the most important part again is like imagine having again if when having kids you understand when you have a screaming kid, most of the time it's not because you need to understand what is everything that's happening. Sometimes the kid just want to have acknowledgement of their emotion, because then they will actually shut up. And emotions is not far away from being a little kid that sometimes screams for attention. And once you give that kid emotion, the attention, then it calms down, and then you can actually go below the alarming system of the emotion and understand what is actually behind it. And this is where you actually can use your logic. The problem is sometimes we attack emotions with logic, and the emotions like, dude, I'm not going to even let you enter because you're not even listening to me. And then you're never going to understand where it actually came from. And then you would just leave the emotion and then you will continue. But the emotion was not handled. And then at some point of time, it just got to pop out again in some random situation, because I think I have an understanding that emotion will be repeating until you understand them and acknowledge them and you deal with them, and then you can move on to something else.
Yeah,
All
but there
they
is no
want is
dealing with
love,
them,
bro.
right? Like, Neil, would love to hear your thought as well. Like, if you're feeling an emotion, you just feel it. How do you deal with it?
At the time, you may just have to experience it.
Right?
Like you can always deal with it instantaneously. Like you said something really good, right? Which I used to do, saying like, oh, I never get upset, but we're human beings living the human experience, and part of that is being upset, is being angry, is having every range of emotion and feeling and experience. So sometimes it's okay, in my opinion, to experience some negative emotion. Like it's what helps us understand what it's like to be human. Like we won't know what happiness or gratitude is if we don't feel the opposite of that, if we never experience that, right? And sometimes we need to be put in this state. That is what helps us grow and continue to develop and have more awareness of ourselves. Like the level of anger like you felt in that experience there with the gym before, um, whatever happened with the two of you. But that experience there, right? If that were to happen again in the future, you've matured as a person, um, emotionally, to have that callus in your mind saying like, oh, this happened already before. Like next time this happened, you would, I don't think you would even flinch. You'd just be like, okay, uh, here we go again. Like, and then in the future, a new challenge is going to come, so you're outgrowing these situations. Like as simple or petty as it may sound, like in that moment when you're sleep deprived, or your kid might be crying, or whatever you may be experiencing, tight deadlines at work, etc. Like whatever you experience there, you won't have the same reaction ever again, as long as you have an awareness, and you handle the situation. Even afterwards you reflect on it. You may get into an argument with your partner, for example, but if you go into it after, and you go into why and how you were feeling, and you're both experiencing your both um, sides of the story and everything, like the chances of that same exact argument and level of emotion that you both experience is very unlikely, right? So I think that is one thing to acknowledge. But on that point with Ali, talking about kids and everything, I think adults as well, right? We all want something, and that thing is love. Like look at what happened in the gym. It boiled down to love there. If we have gratitude. It kind of boils down a little bit with love as well, right? Like a love of your life or your experience and all of this. So ultimately, if we feel more of that, I think the world would be a much better place. Us men would be in a much better state emotionally, no matter what we're going through. Because as rough as life is on what you're going through, if you have love in your life, if you have a partner, you have friends, you have people you really care about, you know, like you can be going through whatever, but just having that, ultimately, man, like that is priceless right there. So I don't think any amount of therapy or meditation or whatever tactic there is out there can replace that. Just having people that love you and who you love, I think that to me is super powerful.
Yes, amazing. Very profound. Two things that I learned in this podcast today. One is checking in with yourself, especially with your emotions. And why do we check in? Not to change the state that we are in, but grow the fucking calluses. And next time it happens, you understand what it would feel like. With that being said, I think Ali, we can close it. I know that you have to go. Any last words from your side?
Actually, not much. I think it was a good catch up, and I feel a lot of things are happening in the background of our life, and we only got like to scratch the surface. So I think, again, remember, this is very important for us to connect in here and share whatever we have. But I still feel we need to have a session where we still open up a little bit for the people out there, because we would love to show our humanness. But again, you got at least a part of our life, Neil and his life and his mental state and so on, myself and what I'm getting through, and Rafi and his gym experience. Definitely something that you remember. So next time, if someone approach you and you take their dumbbell or they take your dumbbell, before you do anything, check their size. If you're W size, then fuck off. If they are your size, then you can approach them like Rafi, and then after become friends with them. That's everything from my side, and then Bella ciao.
Bella
See you in the
ciao,
next one.
everybody. See you.